Y'all, some absolute fucking genius just got a DUI on a goddamn Segway right in front of the sheriff's office, and I cannot even begin to wrap my brain around the levels of stupid we're dealing with here. Like, this man really said, you know what? I've had 2 bottles of wine, time to hop on my little scooter and cruise past the cops, and somehow thought that was gonna end well. I'm sitting here scrolling through my feed, and this shit pops up, and I literally spit out my sweet tea. Because what in the Alabama cousin fucking hell is happening in Florida today? This dude really thought he was gonna glide his drunk ass past the Polk County Sheriff's Office like he's some kind of wine-powered superhero on wheels. The audacity, the sheer fucking audacity of this man has me questioning everything I know about human intelligence. So apparently this magnificent specimen of Florida manhood decided that after consuming what he later admitted was nearly 2 bottles of wine, and y'all know that means it was probably closer to 3, because drunk people lie worse than politicians during election season. He was gonna take his Segway for a little joyride. Now, I don't know about y'all, but when I think of vehicles you shouldn't operate while shit-faced, Segways are pretty high up on that list, right between helicopters and those little scooters kids ride at Walmart. But this man, this absolute legend of poor decision-making, thought differently. He figured, hey, it's got 2 wheels and I can stand on it. What could possibly go wrong? And where does he decide to take this magical mystery tour of intoxication? Right fucking past the sheriff's office. Not around it, not avoiding it like any person with half a brain cell would do, but directly in front of it like he's leading some kind of drunk parade. Hold up, let me back up because it gets so much worse. This wasn't just some quiet little cruise either. Police spotted him swerving into oncoming traffic on his little scooter, weaving around like he's playing some kind of real-life Frogger, except instead of cars, it's actual fucking cars with actual people in them who probably don't want to explain to their insurance company how they got taken out by a wine-drunk guy on a glorified hoverboard. Can you imagine being the person who has to call their spouse and be like, hey honey, I'm gonna be late for dinner because some asshole on a Segway just crashed into me in front of the police station? That's the kind of story that follows you to your grave. Your grandkids are going to be telling that story at family reunions for the next 50 years. And it gets worse, because of course it fucking does. When the cops finally pulled this rolling disaster over, and I'm using the term pulled over very loosely here, because what do you even do with a Segway? Flash your lights at it, yell, "Stop!" really loud? They immediately smelled wine on his breath. Not beer, not whiskey, not even some classy bourbon that might give him a tiny bit of dignity. Wine. This man got absolutely hammered on wine like he's a suburban mom at book club who just found out her husband's been cheating with the neighbor's wife. The officers said there was a heavy smell of wine coming off him, which in cop speak usually means this dude smelled like he bathed in a fucking vineyard. Y'all ain't even heard the dumbest part yet, so they start doing the field sobriety test, right? And this man, this pinnacle of Florida excellence, starts explaining to the officers that he gets tired fast because he has a pacemaker. A fucking pacemaker. Like, sir, having a heart condition is exactly why you shouldn't be operating any kind of vehicle while drunk as a skunk. Not an excuse for why you can't pass a sobriety test. That's like saying you can't take a driving test because you're blind. Maybe that's a sign you shouldn't be driving in the first place, genius. But no, this man really thought he was gonna pacemaker his way out of a DUI charge like it's some kind of get-out-of-jail-free card he can just whip out whenever he makes catastrophically stupid decisions. The best part, though, the absolute cherry on top of this shit Sunday, is that when they tested his blood alcohol level, this man blew 3 times over the legal limit. 3 fucking times. That's not even drunk. That's pickled. That's preserved. That's whatever comes after drunk, when drunk people look at you and say, damn, you should probably slow down. And he thought he could operate a Segway, a machine that requires balance, coordination, and at least a basic understanding of physics. This man had the motor skills of a newborn giraffe on ice skates, and he climbed aboard a 2-wheel death trap like he's fucking Tony Hawk about to land a kickflip. I'm trying to picture what was going through his head when he made this decision. Like, did he look at his Segway and think, you know what, this is definitely the responsible choice here? Was there a moment where he considered maybe calling an Uber or walking or literally doing anything else and then just said, nah, fuck it, I'm gonna science my way home on this thing because that's what a Segway is, right? It's just science. It's gyroscopes and motors and all kinds of fancy shit that requires you to not be completely obliterated to operate safely. But our boy here was running on wine fumes and pure determination, apparently thinking that his pacemaker was going to somehow compensate for the fact that his brain had basically shut down for the evening. And can we talk about the location for a minute? Because this wasn't just anywhere in Florida, though honestly, the fact that it's Florida already explains about 90% of what happened here. This was directly outside the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office, y'all. That's like deciding to smoke weed in the DEA parking lot or trying to shoplift from a store that's literally inside a police station. The level of not giving a fuck required to pull this off is honestly kind of impressive in the most horrifying way possible. This man saw a building full of people whose entire job it is to arrest drunk idiots and thought, yeah, this seems like the perfect place to showcase my wine-powered Segway skills. I keep trying to imagine what the cops were thinking when they looked out the window and saw this shit happening right in front of their building. Like, was there a moment where they weren't sure if they were hallucinating? Did they have to call for backup because they literally didn't know what the protocol was for arresting a drunk guy on a Segway? Because I'm pretty sure most police training doesn't cover what to do when a wine-drunk Florida man shows up at your front door on a fucking scooter. That's probably going to be a new chapter in the training manual now, thanks to this absolute legend of poor judgment. The fact that this man made it as far as he did without crashing into something is honestly a miracle. We're talking about someone who was so drunk he couldn't pass a basic sobriety test, operating a machine that requires constant micro-adjustments to stay upright in traffic while swerving around like he's dodging invisible obstacles. That Segway deserves a medal for keeping his drunk ass vertical long enough for the cops to catch him, although honestly, maybe it would have been better for everyone if he'd just face-planted into the pavement before he could endanger anyone else on the road. But here's what really gets me about this whole situation. The man's excuse. Not just the pacemaker thing, which is already fucking ridiculous, but the entire attitude that somehow this was all just a big misunderstanding. Like, sir, you got blackout drunk, climbed onto a motorized scooter, and decided to go joyriding in front of the police station. There's no misunderstanding here. There's no gray area. You fucked up so spectacularly that it's probably going to end up in law enforcement textbooks as an example of what happens when Florida man meets alcohol and poor life choices. And honestly, I'm almost impressed by the commitment to the bit. Like, once you've made the decision to get drunk and ride a Segway past the cops, you might as well go all the way with it. Why not add the pacemaker excuse? Why not blow 3 times the legal limit? If you're going to be a cautionary tale, might as well be the best cautionary tale you can be. This man really said, I'm not just going to get a DUI, I'm going to get the most Florida DUI in the history of DUIs, and then fucking delivered on that promise. I swear this sounds fake as hell, but apparently it's real, which means somewhere out there is a police report that reads like a comedy sketch someone wrote while high. Some poor cop had to write down, suspect was operating Segway while intoxicated in front of police station, and probably questioned every life choice that led them to that moment. There's probably body cam footage of this shit that's going to end up as training material for decades to come. Future cops are going to watch this video and learn what happens when Florida and alcohol collide in the most spectacular way possible. So what do y'all think? Does this sound too stupid to be true? Or is it exactly the kind of shit that happens in Florida every single day? Because honestly, I can't even tell anymore. Drop it in the comments. Believe it or bullshit. Hit that subscribe button, because God knows what other insane Southern news I'm going to dig up next time.